again. Um, Again, thank you for being here. My name is Robert Newland. Today's topic is recruiting challenges and opportunities, a healthcare perspective. Our guests are Jeff Jurnak from Health First, Maggie Barossa from Nicholas Children's Health System, and our very own Jeremy Fundren from Newland Associates. A couple of housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded and it's going to be available afterwards. If you have any questions, please just type them in and we will be happy to answer them. If you're unable to type in your question, just email me personally at robert@newlandcpi.com and we will take care of you right away. Lastly, to view our podcast, and this is the second of many more to come, you can go to www.godostage.com/channel/Decode the Human. Quickly, a little bit about our firm, a little, 1-minute commercial. Newland Associates, we help organizations decode the human for talent optimization. We provide services in executive search, leadership development, workforce analytics, placement and career management, and HR advisory. You can learn more about us by going to www.newland-associates.com. Okay, so let's talk about today on our guest. First, I want to introduce you to Jeff Jurnak from Health First. Jeff, would you mind telling us a little bit about you and your organization?
Sure. Hello, Robert. Jeff Jurnak, Talent Acquisition Director here at Health First. We are a integrated delivery network in Brevard County, Florida, so the east coast of Central Florida. We have about 9,000 associates in total, 4 different hospitals. We have a medical group operations there, as well as outpatient wellness and division. And we serve a community of about 150,000 folks, and we have 9,000 associates within our organization to provide the great healthcare services that we do here in Brevard. I currently am the director of the talent acquisition function and have been here for about 4.5 years and find a lot of joy and passion around aligning the right talent to the right place for the right opportunity. So thanks for having me on today, Robert.
Thank you for being here, Jeff. And next we have Maggie Barossa from Nicholas Children's Health System. Maggie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your organization, and how did you get to have such a large title?
Good question. Thanks for having me. Everyone calls me Maggie, and I am the Director of Talent Management and Learning and Development, and part of that title does not include the security department that I oversee. I've been in Nicholas Children's Health System for close to 12 years now. Actually, I will give kudos to Jeremy because he kind of put me here 12 years ago. But my hospital is focused on pediatrics, as you can tell based on the name. We have one hospital, freestanding hospital, that's 309 beds. And we have about 20 urgent care centers that are scattered throughout all of South Florida, anywhere from Naples to Jupiter, all the way down to the Keys. My name, it's interesting. It was changed probably right after I joined the organization from recruitment and HR to talent management. It was kind of funny because people used to think, are we hiring talent? Like on-stage performers. And actually, the name kind of suits. Being in my role, we kind of have to hire people who can be on stage 24/7, 365. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Maggie. And then our very own Jeremy Fundren. Jeremy, tell us a bit about you, other than knowing that you got Maggie into that organization 12 years ago.
Yeah, I'm very proud of her for admitting that. Maggie and I have had a great relationship over the years, and she was obviously a stellar candidate back then. But personally, I have over 20 years experience in the recruiting and executive search field. I'm currently the VP of Executive Search Division here at Newland Associates. Our search practice specializes in recruiting professionals at the director, VP, and C-suite levels nationwide. And we cover all industries from IT to retail to nonprofit to hospitality, both in the public and private sectors, and we have a large footprint in the healthcare arena.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thanks for being here. You as well. Um,
Thank you.
okay, so why are we talking about healthcare? Although we have guests, not just from healthcare, but in terms of the audience, we have guests here today that come from multiple industries. And the reason why I wanted us to do that is because healthcare is extremely challenged here in Florida. Um, we're talking about low unemployment and it's a visceral fight for talent in this space. So I think that what we can do today is have a great conversation about some of the challenges and opportunities in talent acquisition in the healthcare space, and then be able to take that if you're in healthcare, to use it, within your industry, but also if you are outside of healthcare, sometimes looking at other industries can be extremely beneficial. Help you look, if you will, a little bit outside the box to see um, what you can put into practice that perhaps you were not seeing in your industry. So with that said, I want to go to, we did a survey of the audience when they were registering, and the first question was, is this a candidate market? And 84% of you said yes. The other 16%, I just want to say that we envy you tremendously. Um, we really, really do. But if this is a candidate market, Maggie, what changes?
Um, it's a good question. So where I see it from a candidate market, I feel like I've been here, I want to say, oh my God, like 15 years ago, in my prior history. And the challenges that I see from the candidates market is not just that we have in healthcare a 2% unemployment, but that only 1% of those are hireable. They're qualified to be hired. And that just shifts my entire focus on having to be more creative in the way I approach passive candidates, because there's more open positions than there are candidates in the market that are looking to apply. And we have to become creative in how we first reach them, but also how we entice them to even want to click on our website, to even then further apply, and then further consider us as an employer of choice. So that's been challenging. It definitely has driven up my time to fill, where we were at 82 days for most positions, excluding physicians, but it's probably at around close to 120 days to fill any positions.
That's pretty substantial. What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I would agree. It definitely feels like it is a candidate market these days. For us, I would agree with Meg there and talking about trying to do things differently. But I also think for us, our time to fill has increased. Seeing candidates have multiple opportunities in play at one time is definitely something in 2018 and 19 that we continue to see. I would also say that our focus since 2017 here at Health First has really been looking through that lens of candidate experience and continuing to work forward effective processes to enhance the candidate experience. And I think a lot of us, in recruitment, talent acquisition, what have you, we pride ourselves on taking really good care of our candidates that are in our funnel, but the candidates that maybe are even being rejected for the particular role that's open today, but might be considered for future roles. How are you creating an environment of processes that touch that candidate, continue to educate them to the process and support them is a large scope of work that we as an organization have undertaken in seeing the road of candidate with the fact of healthcare unemployment being right around 1% in Florida. It has felt like an area of just necessary focus and a commitment to for us here at Health First.
So thank you, Jeff. And Jeremy, you hang your hat in sourcing for organizations like this, and of course, as I well know, a lot of what we do is sourcing passive candidates. How is it getting more challenging as we're reaching out to people in different roles? What has changed, you would say, in the last couple of years in terms of their interest level, the responses, what motivates them to move, and what doesn't?
I think the biggest change that I've seen is when the economy is the way it is you have a lot less movement. So you have to be creative with the opportunities you present. And a lot of the more progressive organizations that we work with, they've grasped that challenge. Whether it's offering more flexible relocation packages, more flexible compensation packages, more opportunities for advancement and career growth. Because in the process nowadays, it's a lot more hands-on time with the candidate. I would say probably 8 to 10 years ago, you'd spend 4 to 6 hours with a candidate, getting them through process preparation, debriefing, vetting, and all that. Now it's probably almost tripled, just because you want to make sure that that candidate is still interested, is still in alignment, making sure where they are, if they are interviewing with others in the process. And, with that, it's obviously leads to time to fill being up. I know Maggie said that they're up almost 50%, and that's pretty close to where we are from year over year. We're about 40 to 50% longer time to fill. So it makes it challenging to keep the candidate's interest, especially if they're actively, pursuing other opportunities.
But I'll even
Let me
interject
say
here.
Go ahead,
I
Maggie.
was gonna say I'll even spinboard off of that, because Jeremy has had difficulties in as he mentioned in keeping candidates' interest in mind. Even when we find the right candidate, we have to snatch them up quickly. And even when we snatch them up quickly, their current employer are counteracting them. So they're counter offering them. So we end up going through a whole extensive process of, here's my key person that I want, and even by the time they go through the interview process and that whole so we're having to balance our candidate experience to a quicker hire, or a quicker offer stage, because by the time that happens, somebody else snatches them up, or their own employer hears about it and keeps them on, and it's just becoming difficult to even hire the right person, because we end up settling for third or fourth place, which doesn't have all the skill sets we're looking for.
And I agree with you, Maggie, on that. We've seen a tremendous increase in counter offers. We've seen an increase, in offer and acceptance, and then, being countered afterwards. So I definitely feel your pain there.
Well, and I think that the audience probably agrees with you. The other survey that we did was this one. Has time to hire increased? 7% not at all, but obviously the vast majority, are feeling the pain. 54%, more than half, time to hire has increased 54%. I mean, that's up to 25%, 54%. That's a big number. And I was really, surprised to see that up to 50% for 31% of the audience. So that means basically about a third of the people that register for the webinar saying it's taking them twice as long in time to hire, and even some of you, 50%. So, I mean, that is painful. So, I mean, where do you decide, Jeff, for example, when you have a top talent that you want to bring to your organization and they get countered, right, by the current employer, what do you say? Well, in this case, maybe we can do something. In this case, we shouldn't do something. What's the kind of driver you would suggest an organization use to sort of decide when to or when not to counter?
Well, for us within the talent acquisition function, I think Jeremy was talking a bit about this, is spending that time with the candidate, trying to work through what are their motivations and reasons for the opportunity, and really spending that quality time to demonstrate the value proposition of the opportunity, and trying to proactively work through what their questions may be or what their comparisons may be to their current organization, to try to work through those with them, so that as they're getting to the point of getting an offer with us and then having to put in notice and possibly receiving that counter, that have we done that diligence of work with them to help them already put their pro and con sheet together a bit, so that even if they are provided a counter, Do they have excellent information to think through to say, well, I engaged in this search for these reasons, and as a result of these reasons, I want to stay the course and pursue this new opportunity versus staying where I'm at. So I think that's some of the work that we have continued to increase effort and energy around, for our leadership candidates and high acuity candidates.
So what you're saying is that money aside, you're trying to, somewhere along the process, try to ascertain what are their drivers, so that you don't find
Yes.
yourself often in a counter situation that it's sort of, a lose-lose situation, because it's just,
Right.
going to basically raise the cost for everybody in the marketplace, correct?
Again, agreement, Robert, and it's a work in progress, obviously, and you can't succeed in all of them, but yes, trying to help them work through that checklist that they have of why they were beginning to entertain that role to begin with, and demonstrating your value proposition and why it's so attractive, whether it's for the candidate, whether it's something as it relates to their development or growth opportunities within the organization, if it's location, if it's quality of services rendered, things of that nature. Yes, just trying to really help work through what those counter topics may be that they would have to engage and entertain, trying to work through those prior versus now they've come back to you after you've made them an offer and said, well, I've been given a counter as well. Just trying to work through those pieces as proactively and up in front as possible versus maybe years past where you didn't have to focus as much time and effort in that space.
And Jeremy or Maggie, have you, counter offers have always existed. Are you seeing that the counter offers now are more steep, or they're, incremental in little steps? Are you seeing a shift in that?
So I'll try to answer that in a few words. I think the additional complexity that I see, yes, our counter offers are getting steeper. Having said that, a lot of it has to do with most of the areas that we're hiring from are not even local talent. We're having to counter offer on relocation packages as well. We're having to offer sign-on bonuses to get them to come in. It's not just counter offering the base of their pay. It's really to getting them to come down. And then the added complexity is that we're culturally diverse down here, and the pool of applicants that we can tap into are coming from the Midwest. We have to really ask them, is this the place? Is South Florida the place for you? For us, at least, because we're not culturally the same as everywhere else. And that's been a challenge for some that relocate down here, and they're not familiar with the high housing costs that we have here, or the traffic situation that we have. So those are the big drivers. We did a focus group on those that left, that were relocated and moved out, and they pointed that those were things that they should have looked at before they even traveled down to interview. And they didn't see it just on the interview experience.
That's
Robert,
interesting. And yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've definitely seen a large spike in counteroffers. As Maggie said, I'm seeing it not only on the base salary, I'm seeing it in bonus potential, sign-ons, relo, really across the board. Anything that can increase, they do. 5 to 10 years ago, a standard counteroffer was usually around 10%. Now I'm seeing 20, 25% bumps in pay, plus adding bonus percentage on there. So, the companies are obviously know the high cost of replacing a director, a VP, a C-suite executive, and realizing that the cost of that is worth, the bump in the base, the bonus, and, even, promising advancement.
But Jeff even mentioned, getting to really understand what their hook is, right? And right. We have had sometimes to offer things like loan forgiveness or full tuition reimbursement or full payment for a degree that they want in addition to. We've seen negotiations for full compensation packages to include things that were not normally the norm for us.
Oh, that is impressive. And Jeremy, I wanted to ask you something further, in this conversation, and it had to do because I do think that sometimes listening to an external recruiter like you could be beneficial for internal recruiters, because while you are both recruiting, it is a bit of a different scenario, because you're coming sometimes to organization with fresh set of eyes and ears, right? You're not
Right.
there every day. What are you seeing on the market, going back to passive candidates, right? So you tap into a passive candidate, and before, I mean, you did that, the market, wasn't really, a job seeker candidate or a candidate market. There were limited options. Are they sort of waking up when you tap on their shoulders, if you will, for opportunities?
Yeah,
Or it's only going, you know what, let me see what's happening, and what impact does that actually have in the process and the results that you get?
it's definitely huge. I always tell my clients that, yes, they were passive 2 weeks ago when we contacted them, but it's always well, while I'm looking at this opportunity, what else is out there? So a lot of times they'll be, weren't looking, very happy in their roles, very happy with their career path. And then we contact them, and it's whether it's an organization such as a Health First or a Nicholas Children's that is very reputable, that they say, wow, I know them, they're the gold standard of healthcare. Then they gain that initial interest. The negative is then as the process continues on, they either been now are open to other recruiters contacting them, or they start looking on their own. And when you have that, it's kind of now it becomes a horse race. Who's the first one that's going to get them through the interview process to the offer and acceptance stage? And then at that point, who's going to be able to offer them the most incentive? So it's kind of, one of those scenarios where everything's being driven up. The interview process needs to be shortened, but then obviously now you have to have more flexibility with your reload packages, with your compensation packages. As Maggie said, now they're talking about full tuition reimbursement, loan forgiveness, all these different things that when Maggie first started there, 12 years ago, we didn't have those same challenges. We had different challenges, but not those challenges. So definitely see it heading in that direction more so today than even 3 to 5 years ago.
Well, all that Maggie had to do with me was offer me lunch at Havana Harry's, but that's a whole other thing. You can still do that.
I'll invite you, you pay.
Oh, there you go. I knew that was coming. Jeff, let me ask you, I mean, Maggie touched on something very interesting, which is, the culture of South Florida, is very unique. And when you're looking at candidates, some of them may not realize, where they're going, right? You're in a very different environment. They're both beautiful places, but you're more, the Space Coast, not as crowded. Even the beaches are not crowded. Do you probe in any way for fit to not just culture of the organization, but also the environment of the community, especially when you're bringing people from out of town? How do you gauge that?
Yes, we definitely do work to probe. I would say we have a combination of questions and information sharing along those lines. It is interesting, to your point, when you're talking with candidates, and some folks just really like the changing of the seasons, and some people really enjoy snowmobiling for whatever reason, right? And that's just nothing that's just not going to change for them. So yes, we absolutely do take the time to probe, and we have one-pagers and documents that we'll also share with candidates that are available when we put those on our Facebook page and Glassdoor and things of that nature, as well as we send those off to them individually, that talks about what is it to live on the Space Coast. What does the art and entertainment sector look like? What is typical traffic and population sizes and things of that nature, and quality of schools and what have you. Because we do feel like we're in constant competition with markets such as Maggie's and Orlando and Northern Florida as well. So we try to be cognizant to that, and then talk about what the value proposition is of the Space Coast, and have those conversations. And it does often will lead to say that this maybe isn't the right opportunity at this time, because the environment and the culture of Brevard County is different than the other markets that I've referenced, and specifically in Orlando, there are different value propositions of both locales. So we definitely like to spend that time trying to make sure the candidate does. And when we do have them come in for an on-site, we will typically, for a leader level position, right, we will align them with a real estate agent. We'll make sure that they get a community tour and they have a chance to spend a day in that to see a little bit more of what it means to be on the Space Coast as they're comparing the options that they have.
And by the way, you're right. We don't judge people that don't want to be, in an all-year summer in Florida. But what is wrong with them? Well, I wanted to go to the next slide and kind of share with you and the audience, some of their ideas in terms of what they're doing different, and perhaps we have 10 or 15 minutes left, a bit of a conversation around, some of these ideas. One of them is, pursuing candidates more aggressively. That's an interesting one, I guess. When you go from employer market to a candidate market, you can't just sit and wait. But another one that I find, interesting is, looking at your recruiting process for improvements and acceleration. Have you guys done that, and have you found any particular components of the process that you were able to improve and make it a bit faster and more efficient and effective in terms of really, because it's not just doing it faster, but actually doing it faster while you get, better results, right?
Mm-hmm. Jeff here, I would speak just a little bit to that second bullet point there. One of the items we did is we did overhaul our website to make it easier and cleaner, to make it more of like an eBay or an Amazon experience for our candidates that are coming to our website. We reduced the number of questions in the application. We rolled out the ability for, from candidates that meet the qualifications of the role, they're automatically invited to schedule a time on the calendar of a recruiter so that they can pick a time versus having to go back and forth between voicemails to connect and to schedule a time with the recruitment team to set that up. And for some of our higher repeatable positions, we even have a technology that allows them to click on a link after they've applied and it shows that they're qualified to conduct that first level assessment interview electronically with pre-recorded questions and answers that they would provide. And that gives them access to be able to complete that first level phone interview / assessment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That really works well for positions maybe like a certified nursing assistant, maybe somebody that's working 3 12-hour shifts and they want to do it before work or after work, and they can fit that into their schedule much more easily. So those are a couple of improvement areas that we've worked to accelerate the process for our candidates to help them get into the process at Health First more quickly.
That's really, really great information. Maggie, have you been able to work within your organization and improving some of that? What do you think that you may be
I think
perhaps,
we've
doing different from before?
Yeah, I think we've trialed probably everything on this list at this point, anywhere from video interviewing, meaning the pre-recorded version of it through a company, through creating pre-qualification process. I think that was phenomenal for quality of hire. But I go back to the point. So yes, every applicant completes a PI at the beginning when they apply. We've been doing that forever. We use that as part of the interview process. Those leaders that really embrace it and use it have successful retention and quality of hire. We're kind of stuck right now on a balance of how much pre-qualifications do we do versus getting them in here in the door quickly, so that we can qualify them quicker. Because as I mentioned, it's kind of, by the time we decide we like this person, somebody else has already decided it before we have. So we're trying to balance that sense of urgency with all these strategies. And a lot of these strategies, the on-the-spot interviews are great, but that also requires setting up a job fair, having people just show up. We don't get a lot of walk-ins for applications. We're not set up like that. Most people aren't set up like that nowadays. We have a large footprint on LinkedIn, huge, but so does everybody else. Um, I haven't found that secret sauce that says it's going to get them to me quicker and higher quality. I'd be interested to find out if anyone else has.
Well, let me ask you, and I don't know, in the pre-call we talked about this. Um, I'm not going to tie it specifically to quality, but maybe a pipeline. You guys have talked about doing more, creating more training opportunities within the organization to sort of create your own internal talent pipeline, right?
Yeah,
Um, you
yeah.
tell us a bit about that, Maggie?
We have really focused on that more than anything else, whether it's internal referrals, upping that game up a little. And the other one is a big development program for staff, offering a host of different things to close some of the skill gaps to retain them, but also to attract them. Internal movement, promotion. We did a lot of research on generational preferences, and staff, most of the people in the industries leave because of career opportunity and growth. And if we find that if we show them that even if it's internal movement where they can learn a new skill, that to them means growth. And so we're putting a lot of efforts on trying to retain and grow our own talent, um, and then have a couple of entry point positions where we can grow them from there.
Well, I want to add to that, and we have about 5 minutes left. That you something mentioned that, I mean, you mentioned something that we're seeing more of too, which is utilizing career management as a retention strategy. Because sometimes it's not just the new hires, but you can put a bit of a stop to retention, right? If you can reduce your retention, then you don't need to hire that much. And one of the things that we're finding more of our clients that are doing is really looking at career management, and sitting down with employees and understand, not just having a conversation around performance management, which is what we tend to do with employees, which is fine. I mean, we have to have those conversations, but more, even one of the bullets in here says candidate with them, right? The what's in it for me. But in this case would be the employee with them, what's in it for me, which is a conversation around, is this the job you want to be doing? What job do you want to have 2, 3 years from now? How can I make this job, a better fit for you? And that creates an interest engagement experience that drives retention, somewhere along the lines of what you're seeing. Just wanted to say that we're seeing more of that in the marketplace across the country, quite frankly. Um, what else in here, Jeremy? Anything in here that calls your attention? They say, yeah, I see my clients doing more of this, and anything you see in there that you see your clients doing more of that, maybe you got feedback that it really isn't working. Because I mean, these bullets are by no stretch of the imagination, the Bible of what we should be doing out there. Is just sharing from our audience, right? So because you work with so many different companies, um, which one of these you think that, based on what you hear, are providing better results, and which ones not so much?
Well, I would piggyback on the recruitment process improvements and acceleration. I think one of the big challenges, it's across many industries, but it's educating the hiring authorities on having more of a higher sense of urgency to move the interview process quickly. They're not in the trenches every day as we are, whether you're external or internal recruiter in talent acquisition. So they don't see the day-to-day challenges of the candidate market, the way it is now and the way it's going. So I think that that's a huge hurdle that we're trying to overcome with all of our clients, is getting those hiring authorities on board with the fact that we understand that they're busy, but this is an important part of the process that we need to rearrange a couple of schedules if we have to make sure that we can get these panel interviews set up with these senior leaders, and they have the buy-in to the HR talent acquisition departments that this is something that we need to do. Otherwise, we're going to lose our top candidates, as Maggie said. So you're not having to. You can then select your candidate versus settling.
Okay, I think that's good impact. I mean, good input. There's one here that it seems almost counterintuitive, which is being more high touch. Because on the one hand, we know, from our experience, that most of our clients are pretty overwhelmed with the load of talent that need to hire. So it seems counterintuitive to be more high touch when you're so busy. On the other hand, I thought that whoever put that in there is spot on, just because sometimes being so overwhelmed with work, we forget to provide that personalized experience to somebody who is, looking to make a move, right? And I'm sure you guys have seen this. We may be hiring a lot of people for that one person. It is that one change is very personal to that individual. So we may have another 100 openings, but for that person, that is the one opening that counts. So I think that was, great input there. What about advertising spend? Do you find yourselves now with all the multiple channels, from billboards, in your geographies to, social media, to, the ZipRecruiters and the Indies, where do you find yourself, spending your advertising money? Has it shifted in this market? And that's for Jeff or Maggie, any one of you would like to.
Jeff, you want to take it first?
Sure. I would say, in being in the overall recruitment industry for 20 years, I do think we've seen a shift. A lot of the research that I still continue to read shows that your career website and your job boards are still your number one areas of traffic development. But, instead of the monsters and the career builders, I've seen Indeed.com really over the last few years be that number one place of location for individuals, and being able to feature those opportunities in a pay-per-click format, so that your priority positions are getting out on that first page of results based on what they're typing in. And I think so. I do think our advertising spend has shifted and also has increased over time, but also thinking more about the percentage of individuals here in the U.S. that just use a smartphone or mobile platform to engage and consume information. I think we've continued to ensure our brand awareness and advertising spend correlates in a lot of ways with those components, thinking about the mobile platform and engaging the Glassdoor, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, things of that nature. So that, as Maggie alluded to, having to get candidates from outside of your region or your geography continues to be a point. The billboards are still important, but and a necessary component. But if you're trying to get folks from outside of your region, obviously the effectiveness of those is challenging comparative to your brand outreach outside of your geography, from which you can unlock with the different tools and technology available. And I think that's something that we've continued to see a shift in attention, time, and financial investment.
All right, thank you. Maggie, you want to add to that?
I think very similar to Jeff. We've had a lot of focus on social media, huge focus on social media. We work closely with our marketing department, and we've branded ourselldas a place of not just fun, family driven. We have gone out and recorded a series of 2-minute micro videos of employees doing their work or even having fun at work. And we've actually blasted those through social media, through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, we've done it. Our biggest applicant base comes from LinkedIn, though. Hands down, LinkedIn, millions of applicants from there. I was averaging in this. So one of the other things that we track is the amount of applicants we get in. And that also kind of tells me that the market is not prone to active applicants. So I used to receive about 12,000 applicants a month. We are down to 4,000 or 5,000 a month. And it's not from lack of the footprint. It is from lack of the people who are not actively looking. We have engaged texting functionality where we text applicants, where we text people who are candidates that are in through the process. We have been trialing that, and it seems to be successful. I think for us, we do a lot of, and I don't mean to intend to bring this other one. We do a lot of generational studies on how do we engage the different audiences out there, and that helps us determine the venue in which we communicate and reach out to the different applicants. Indeed is the second area where we do a lot of recruitment from. I agree with Jeff, that is probably very high in there. The Monsters, the Career Builders, all those other ones, even Google has pretty much died down for us at least. And so we don't invest so much money on that. But LinkedIn is probably the one we spend a lot of money in it. They have a lot of pipelines that integrate into our applicant tracking system automatically. So I don't have to go into multiple databases to do resume searching. Those are kind of the things that we've been focusing on for recruitment tools.
Okay, and we have probably about just a handful of minutes left. We could go over this, I think, for another hour, but we're going to probably have to wrap it up in respect to the people that have other commitments. So if we could end with just getting, your final thoughts, or if you will, your guru-like last words of wisdom to the audience in terms of based on these challenges, what do you think, if they were to pick one thing they need to spend more time on, what would you suggest? And we'll start with Jeff.
Okay, I'll have a go at it. I think for us, you talked about the high touch, and what does the high touch necessarily mean? And I think that's that means different things to different individuals. So for us, an example would be you spent good money on technology. I mentioned the ability to be able to do a phone interview at any point in time for different positions. Also added a chat bot into our website and have a career center with a 1-800 number for candidates to be able to call with any questions or status, and trying to provide via the technology and tools like the chat bot. I think we see our candidate activity for the ones that are interested in roles, looking for that communication just when they want it, versus leaving another voicemail and having so many to return. Being able to add those touch points to give them information of where they're at in the process is looking to be a key differentiator for us in our marketplace. It is something that, as we think about the overall experience of the available candidates, is continuing to add those levers into our processes to support great touch points along the candidate journey, or even as they're becoming a potential active candidate or an interested candidate, and to continue to develop on those.
Thank you, Jeff. Maggie?
I don't know that I could add any better than what Jeff said. I think he's right on it. I think the high touch point is going to be critical for us to keep engaged those that are of potential for us. He mentioned chatbot, and that's an area where I think is an opportunity for us to help us do that. I have not been able to invest in that just yet. But I am looking at doing that one because I find, or I've heard from those that use it, it's a phenomenal tool. But other than that, the only other area of focus for us is going to have to be retention, development from within and retention, because we've already invested a lot of money and effort and manpower in bringing and hiring this person and training them. That's going to be our key focus.
All right. Well, if you need a good chatbot vendor, I'm sure Jeff can get you one. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. And Jeremy, other than people should call you, any words from you in terms of advice to the audience today?
Yeah, I think that, having flexibility, whether it be with compensation, whether it be with relocation package, obviously working both with Jeff and with Maggie's teams, they both offer different challenges based on their geography. But having that flexible relocation package, offering opportunities for advancement and career growth, that's a huge huge piece of why people are interested in opportunities. And then, having a quick and efficient interview process and, timely communication with the candidates. I think those are a lot of the key points that we're seeing with our successes and offering acceptances and bringing on quality leaders for their organizations.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. And I'm not going to add anything to this. I mean, you have plenty of wonderful experts in today's panel. So I want to thank Jeff, Maggie, and Jeremy for being here today. I really appreciate your time, as I'm sure that the audience appreciates all the information that you provided them today. This is the second installment of Decoding the Human Pocket series with Robert Newland. Our next events are going to be March and April. Dates to be determined. One of them is called Is Our Placement Dead? A Global Perspective on the Future of Career Transition. And I'm going to have some of my career partners, international partners from the US, from Europe and Asia Pacific chime in that discussion. And then we're also going to have another interesting podcast, which is going to be Me Too and the Workplace, where progress has been made and where do we go next. So again, thanks everybody for having spent part of your morning with us today, and see you next time.
Thank you, guys.